The World Cup roster for the U.S. men's national team has dropped, and Gregg Berhalter did not just throw a curveball, he threw several curveballs. This is one of the craziest rosters he's ever released, and it subverted expectations, some good ways, some bad ways. So let's talk about it. So before we jump in, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and TikTok. Lots of World Cup coverage on both of those platforms, especially on TikTok. We've got some great stuff happening over the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned over there. But yeah, let's jump right to the roster. We will start position by position by talking about the goalkeepers. Goalkeepers, we immediately had a surprise. Zach Steffen was left out of the roster. Zach Steffen was Berhalter's preferred number one for a very, very long time. Beginning of qualifying, he was preferred. He started against Mexico and Cincinnati. He started over Turner in Jamaica. And really, it seemed like he was the preference until he got injured in June. Turner was the starter in those games in September. Steffen didn't get called up. His form has been really, really poor. He was just simply awful in the March qualifiers. Has been really, really bad for Middlesbrough the last couple months. And yeah, his form's maybe picked up a little bit, but I like actually this call to drop him. Ethan Horvath is someone I really trust as the backup, and genuinely maybe someone better than Zach Steffen at this present moment in time. His form for Luton has been better. Sean Thompson goes as the number 3. You know, he's had some good games in the MLS playoffs against Montreal. I was at that game where he was honestly fantastic. And you know what, as the third goalie, he's not going to play. He's a locker room presence. This is his first World Cup, but he's very experienced. So I have no problem with him going. Though personally, I would have brought Gaga Slonina as the third goalkeeper just to give him that experience as a young 18-year-old goalkeeper. But I don't feel too unhappy with this one. I'm actually really happy. As long as Matt Turner is the number 1, and he will be, we are good to go here. Center backs is where we immediately get our first surprise. So, unfortunately, Chris Richards, who is for my money the best American center back right now from Crystal Palace, he's injured. He can't go to the World Cup. He's missed out. Heartbreaking for him, and very bad for this team because with Miles Robinson already out, that's 2 of the 3 center backs who are starting quality are gone, and those are like Richards, Robinson, and Walker Zimmerman are the only 3 center backs I actually trust to start at a high-level international game, and even that's a bit generous on some of those guys. So Walker Zimmerman has to start at right center back. The question now is who's going to be a left center back. There are a couple options here: Cameron Carter-Vickers and Aaron Long. We knew we were going to be here. No shocker, they were locks. Yeah, no surprise. Aaron Long will most likely be the starter. Tim Ream comes in as the 4th center back. Now, obviously, he's been having a really, really good year for Fulham so far. 35 years old. No one would have thought he would still be playing at this high of a level at this age. And the thing is, even when he's been in good form, he still hasn't been getting called up for the last 14 months. So, even though he's been playing well, I kind of just assumed, I think everyone really just assumed, he's not really a system fit, he's old, he's not going to come, he's playing well, but yeah, he's just on the outside looking in. He wasn't even on my radar, really, in the prediction video. I just assumed he wasn't going to go. Well, here we are. Tim Ream is on the roster. And you know what? I could even see him being a valuable option to start alongside Walker Zimmerman, maybe against England. At least one of these games. He may have a role. 35 years old, as I said. Very experienced. Playing in his first World Cup 12 years after making his national team debut. Again, age 35. This is an incredible story for Tim Ream. A pleasant surprise to see him on this roster. And yeah, he's got a role to play because, again, he's the best ball-playing center back in the pool for my money, maybe even better than John Brooks, who's not in the pool. But yeah, Tim Ream on the roster. Pleasant surprise. Love to see it. 5 fullbacks on the roster. And, again, we've got a surprise here. I mean, a pleasant surprise. Again, this is another pleasant surprise for me. Just something I just assumed wasn't going to happen and did. We'll start with the obvious ones. Serginho Dest is in. Anthony Robinson is in. Those 2 are going to play pretty much every minute. DeAndre Yedlin, the only player on this roster with any prior World Cup experience. He played a little role in the 2014 World Cup, coming as the backup right back. He did actually play considerable minutes, and that even earned him a move to Tottenham. He comes onto this roster as a backup right back. Joe Scally, there was some doubt in some people's minds whether he was or was not going to make it. He's here, and of course, obviously, why not? He's been the starter for Mönchengladbach this season, and yeah, he's a backup at right back and is the backup at left back as well. Shaq Moore is the surprise I alluded to. He makes the roster over Reggie Cannon. So I'm actually going to say a little bit of a backstory to this. Why is Shaq Moore here over Reggie Cannon? Because this was kind of a late switch. So Serginho Dest obviously is the starter. However, he has been dealing with some injury and fitness issues lately. He is not perhaps at 100% and is maybe at a higher risk of injury. So the idea that Shaq Moore comes in instead of Reggie Cannon is because Shaq Moore is an attacking-minded right back, whereas Reggie Cannon is more of a stay-at-home right back. So basically, Shaq Moore is coming in over Reggie Cannon because Shaq Moore provides better cover for Serginho Dest. I think that's the right call because I think that Shaq Moore is better than Reggie Cannon anyway, and I would have brought Shaq Moore way back in like August when I gave my personal roster. I at that time actually did have Shaq Moore on my roster over Reggie Cannon, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think it's the right call. I'm happy to see him here. I hope he doesn't have to play because I hope Dest and Scally get the majority of the minutes. But again, it's the right call. I'm happy with it. Moving on to the midfielders. Alright, this is where we begin to get some snubs. We'll get the defensive midfielders out of the way because it's the most boring position to talk about. Tyler Adams and Kellen Acosta. Adams is the starter. Acosta's the backup. That's all there is to it. No one's even close to those two. On to the midfielders. Yunus Musa and Weston McKennie, of course, go. At least one of them will start. Both probably will start because I have a feeling that Berhalter is going to play the MMA midfield, so I think we'll see McKennie and Musa both in the starting lineup in a 4-3-3. Then things get a little weird. Luca De La Torre is on the roster. If Luca De La Torre was 100% healthy and was playing regularly for Celta de Vigo, I would bring him. However, not only is he not playing for Celta, like he is never playing. He's got like 60 minutes all season or something like that. Not only is that the case, he's injured. He is literally not able to play on the field right now. Now, Berhalter literally said this afternoon. He said Luca De La Torre is not at 100% match fitness, and he won't be able to start in the first game. That's hypothetically. He might be able to get minutes later on in the tournament. Are you kidding me? We're bringing a guy who is, it's not like he's so good that we need to bring him. Like if Yunus Musa or Weston McKennie or even Kellen Acosta were in that situation, I would still bring them. But it's Luca De La Torre. He's not head and shoulders above Johnny Cardoso and Malik Tillman, who is a snub because of his versatility in central midfield on the wing and even as a number 9. I would have brought Malik Tillman over Luca De La Torre for sure, and Johnny Cardoso as well. I think I would rather bring him at this present moment as well. He's been very good for Internacional. Christian Roldan is the final midfielder listed on the roster. I mean, he's not going to play. He's not going to see a single minute on the field at the World Cup. We know that already. He's there for vibes. Like I said, I would have brought him as a coach. Wasting a roster spot on him does seem a little bit silly. It is what it is. It's the 26th man on a 26-man roster. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Let's move on to the wingers. There's a bit less to talk about there. So yeah, let's hop over there. I'll get the elephant in the room. Brendan Aronson on the official roster is actually listed as a midfielder, which makes me think we might actually play a 4-2-3-1 at some point, and he would be a 10 in that. But I listed him with the wingers here, honestly, because I already had this picture saved. But Brendan Aronson, Jordan Morris, Gio Reyna, Christian Pulisic, and Tim Weah. So the four obvious ones, Aronson, Reyna, Pulisic, and Weah, obviously they're going to make it. Nothing really to say about that. Pulisic, Reyna, Weah, and Aronson are all capable of starting. I think we'll see Pulisic start every game. I think we'll see a combination of Aronson, Reyna, and Weah, whether it be on the right wing or whether it be in Reyna and Aaronson's case as a 10 in a 4-2-3-1, which is what I'm personally really hoping to see. Jordan Morris is the last man to make it. He makes it over Paul Arriola. Arriola is actually injured, apparently, so fair enough. Like, there's no reason to bring Arriola if he is indeed injured, but that's just rumored. Jordan Morris, though. Really? I mean, Jordan Morris has scored 2 goals and has 1 assist since June. Okay, for context, Brian Gutierrez has better stats in that time. He has like double those numbers. I'm not advocating for Brian Gutierrez to be on the national team roster, for the record. But the fact that Jordan Morris is going over Georgi Mihailovic, Malik Tillman, guys like that, it is ridiculous. I would even bring a 4th striker over Jordan Morris. Well, we'll get to the strikers in a minute. And I think that's the most egregious thing on the list. But Jordan Morris being here just seems silly, honestly. I'd even add another midfield. Like, I'd add Johnny Cardoso or Malik Tillman. Whatever. It is what it is. It's a waste of a roster spot, and I hope that Jordan Morris doesn't see the field, but there's a good chance he does. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to the forwards, and then we will take a look at what the lineup probably will be in the World Cup. But yeah, Jordan Morris makes the roster. I'm not happy about it, but it's not really surprising, especially considering that Paul Arriola was injured. Center forwards, there were 3, and this is the most egregious position on the entire roster, in my opinion, and I am really, really unhappy with these selections. I think in my head right now, based on current ability and form, so based on those 2 things, which you would assume would be the main things that you're taking into account when you're picking strikers for a World Cup roster, I think of our 6 in the striker pool, I rank them like this. I think Sargent's number 1 right now. He's scoring goals. He's in good form. I think he's very well rounded. I put Sargent at number 1. I put Pepe as number 2. I think 3 and 4 are tight. Brandon Vasquez, I honestly put at number 3, though I might not bring him just because he hasn't been integrated. But still, I think he's the 3rd best striker. Then Jordan Pefok. Again, his form isn't great, but he still should be an option. 5th, I would say, is Jesus Ferreira. A couple of months ago, I would have answered that very differently, but his form has been so bad. Yes, he's a talented player. He's got potential. He's definitely got quality, but his form has been so bad lately that I don't think that when Pepe, Vasquez, and Sargent are in form, you can justify bringing him over them. And then I think Hadji Wright was my 6th. Yes, he's scoring goals in Turkey. Turkey is an awful league. Hadji Wright, I think he's got 7 goals this season. I don't think he should have been on this roster. Ricardo Pepi. Let's start with him. He was called up in September when he had not scored a goal in, 11 months. He hadn't scored a goal in 11 months when he was called up at that point. 11 and a half months, something like that. He didn't score from October 7th until like the week before the game against Japan. Now he has 5 goals and 2 assists, is one of the top goal scorers in the Eredivisie, has been in incredible form for FC Groningen. It's just illogical that he would be called up when he was on a scoring drought and then wasn't called up when he's in great form. Jesus Ferreira makes the roster. Like I said, we discussed that. Joe Sargent makes the roster. We discussed that. Jordan Pefok, I understand his omission, but Hadji Wright being here just seems weird. It's just a weird call. It just doesn't compute for me. It doesn't really make any sense. Like, he got his first call up in June. Wasn't that great. He scored a penalty against Morocco, but other than that, he was pretty anonymous in the minutes he got. He's the same exact player he was in June. I don't understand the call-up. I just think some bad decisions were made here, and Sargent is the only guy here, I think, right now I trust to start a game in the World Cup. So Sargent, because he's in good form, he's actually playing well, so he should be here. Ferreira's form is so poor, I just don't think he can make an impact at the World Cup level, and Haji Wright, I just don't think has the quality. So, yeah, I think Berhalter got this position wrong. It's just mind-boggling. It's just confusing, honestly. I really don't know what more to say about it. I think this is truthfully a tragedy, and if we go out in the group stage and we were struggling to score goals, and we go out of the World Cup with Haji Wright or Jesus Ferreira on the field, we're going to look back at this World Cup and say, what if Pepe was there? What if Jordan Pefok was there? Even what if Brandon Vasquez was there? Like, I find it hard to understand why this was the decision that was made. But enough about the strikers. I think it's pretty clear what I think about it. Actually, do comment what you think about the strikers, because, like I said, I don't like this decision. Let's look at what the roster, what the lineup will most likely look like. So this right here is probably the most likely lineup for the World Cup. Obviously, Matt Turner is the goalkeeper. Walker Zimmerman's the right back starter. Those things are just givens. And the same thing goes for Destin Robinson as the fullbacks. Aaron Long, like it or not, will probably start the first game. If it doesn't go well, someone else might come in, but Aaron Long's probably the start. Like, I would probably do Tim Ream. I know it doesn't really fit how we've played for the last year, but I don't really trust Long or Carter Vickers. And Ream, he's slow, but he's the only one who can actually pass the ball. Tyler Adams is going to be the defensive midfielder, there's no doubt about it. Like I said, I think it's going to be MMA. I think it's going to be McKennie next to Yunus Musa. Gio Reyna would be pushed out to the right wing, Pulisic on the left, and Josh Sargent is the only striker I trust right now, and even he, like, is he a World Cup level striker? We're seeing him against championship opposition. We'll have to wait and see. I have Sargent as a striker, though. I'll show you an alternate shape that I would prefer, and that I've been hinting at for a couple of weeks that I think would probably do better for us at the World Cup. Alright, this right here is a shape that I would prefer. I kept the back line the same just for all intensive purposes because realistically this is going to be the back line. For the midfield, I dropped McKennie. I don't think his form's been the best. I think he's still a very important, key, and valuable player for this team, but I don't really think he fits the 4-2-3-1 system, which is what I would like to see us play against Wales and maybe England and Iran as well. I would like to see Weah on the right wing. I just really like what he brings, his crossing, his ability to impact the game from those wide positions and be a vertical threat. Christian Pulisic obviously on the left wing. I like Gio Reyna in the middle. He's kind of free roaming. He kind of does his own thing, but just the way he can play, make, and create for those attackers. And I like a double pivot of Adams and Yunus Musa. Yunus Musa can really progress the ball well. It helps out Tyler Adams as well that he doesn't have to do as much with the ball at his feet if he's in a double pivot with Yunus Musa, because that's not Adams' strength. He's a ball winner. He's a destroyer, but he's not a playmaker. He's not Andrea Pirlo. So you need someone next to him who can move the ball forward, progress it well. We've seen him thriving at Leeds. He's in the form of his life right now. Next to Roca, who is, again, much better with the ball at his feet. Yunus Musa can be that equivalent to Roca. So I'm trying to put these guys in the best positions to succeed, and I think that helps Gio Reyna and Tyler Adams even more. Josh Sargent, again, as the number 9, the only one I trust. Hopefully he's a starter at the World Cup. But again, it would have been really nice to have Ricardo Pepi as an option. Alright, that's the video. I want to know your thoughts. Again, follow me on TikTok because we've got some really cool stuff happening over there over the next couple of days and weeks and hopefully 2 months. Twitter, yeah, you're going to want to follow me there. Verified account. But yeah, we'll see you guys later. Lots of World Cup coverage coming over the next couple weeks. Adios.